During a recent workshop, a developer told me during a break, I used to love my job, now I feel tired and useless. He wasn't burned out from overwork, he wasn't dealing with bad managers or something. He basically just used AI since a couple of months. In this video, I want to discuss three things that AI coding can do to developers and why there's an underlying shift that we need to understand and actively deal with. I'm Jonas from Eclipsos. Let's dive into it. When we consult and train teams on AI coding, we of course cover a lot about setups, about workflows, about processes and techniques. However, there is a layer that we don't talk about enough, the human layer. What happens inside developers when AI changes the way that we work? This isn't about productivity and it's not about tools. It's about how developers feel and why many developers still struggle even if technically everything works. I want to discuss three patterns in particular. They look unrelated, but at the end of this video, you will see they all come from the same place. Now, let's start with the first one, the one that nobody wants to talk about. Cognitive drain. I hear this constantly, but only in private conversations. Things like, I'm not typing that much anymore. Why do I feel so tired? Or, I used to be able to code for more than 8 hours straight. Now I'm done after 5 hours. And then people assume that they're getting lazy or distracted, or even that they are burned out. And I really hear this constantly all over the place. Now, here is what I actually think is happening under the hood. AI doesn't reduce cognitive load, it concentrates it. If you code manually, you stretch your analysis and your problem solving over potentially hours. You enter abstractions, you go in a flow state, and you give your brain micro breaks while you're typing, while your fingers are moving. With AI, that's gone. The hard cognitive work, the problem analysis, the solving, and the review of the output, whether it actually fits the problem, all gets concentrated into high intensity bursts. These phases require very high attention and maximum context. There's no flow, just spikes of high intensity thinking. And what makes this even worse is the temptation to fill every little pause. While AI is working for us, we feel like we must be productive too. In fact, one of the most frequent questions I get during AI coding trainings is what to do while the AI is generating code. Check emails, kick off another agent. And this really reveals a problem. In this modern world, we have been trained to fill every moment. However, every context switch fragments your attention. Now, I'm not saying that, for example, running agents in parallel is a bad thing, especially when they run longer and it actually justifies a context switch. But if you try to fill every 30 seconds break with something else, you basically never give your brain time to recover and you will feel depleted soon. Most developers don't realize this. They just feel that way. And if somebody realizes this, I would claim that almost nobody would admit that publicly because it feels like being weak. The fix starts with acceptance. This is not laziness, it's a real limitation. Try to resist the temptation to fill every little pause and watch your workflow. And maybe try something counterintuitive. Instead of immediately switching context, stay in context. Think about the next step, what you would do or what you want to check once the agent run is done. Or maybe even try something completely radical. Do nothing for a moment. No phone, no emails. Just sit there and let your brain recover a bit. Not all of the time that AI saves us has to become more output. Some of it can also become space. This will reduce cognitive load and it will also definitely improve the quality. Now, cognitive drain is not the only feeling that I observe. Let's get to the next one. Feeling unproductive. I often hear things like, yesterday I produced a lot of code, but I felt very unproductive. Or even more often, yesterday I was only reviewing PRs. I basically didn't do any work myself. This makes sense, and here's why. For decades, productivity felt like typing. Fingers moving, problem solving line by line. This rhythm was showing us that we were actually working. AI completely broke this connection. Now the valuable work is different. It's reading, it's evaluating, deciding whether the generated code actually solves the problem, catching a corner case that AI overlooked, or even think about whether you're solving the right problem or what other problems you should solve. This work is invisible, and for many developers, it feels like doing nothing. And there's even a connection to the cognitive drain we discussed before. If you're already exhausted from a lot of decision making and you feel not productive, you naturally gravitate towards a task that feel more easy and more productive, and that is writing yet another prompt and not doing another review. So many developers continue to generate code, keep the code flowing, and create a lot of PRs. Now, this often leads to a dynamic that we observe in teams. Reviews get postponed and PRs pile up. And when somebody finally does a review, they often look at code that even the person who created the PR didn't fully understand. And now, what these poor people have to do, they have to do the comprehension work that somebody else skipped. And that's very frustrating. They're basically clearing up the generation high of somebody else. Now, this problem becomes so common that there's even the term for that, getting slopped. And this, together with a huge pile of open PRs, is one of the most common complaint I hear from teams. It's so common that we will soon publish a dedicated video only on this issue. So subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss it. Now let's get back to the actual issue that we just discussed. The hard truth is AI took away a part of our work that felt very productive, and what's left doesn't always feel like work. Comprehending, reviewing, and making decisions. However, that's exactly where the value is now. The fix is recalibration. We have to learn to feel productive while our hands are not moving. Now, this is much easier to say in a YouTube video than to implement in practice. And that leads me directly to the third issue and pattern that I want to discuss today, because it understands why fixes to the cognitive drain issue and to the productivity feeling issue are so hard to implement in practice and often do not stick. Identity shift. I've had this conversation dozens of times. Developers pull me aside after a training and say some version of, I don't know what my value is anymore. A developer 15 years of experience, very respected architect, has put it this way. I've spent my whole career, 15 years, of getting good at writing code. And now AI can do it faster and better than me. What was this all for? The way that I started to look at it, writing code was never the hard part. It was understanding the problem, analyzing the requirement, finding edge case, designing a good architecture, or even further, questioning whether the problem you are actually currently solving is the right problem to solve. Writing code is how we processed this understanding. It was the artifact, not the skill. What AI took away is the easy part, the typing, the syntax, and so on. We are left with the hard part, the part that always mattered, the part that we trained ourselves to do while coding for many, many years, and the part where there were never enough people to actually do. Back to this architect with 15 years of experience. His value was never his typing speed. It was understanding problem, decomposing them into smaller pieces, his judgment, and the ability to ask the right questions. AI doesn't replace that, at least not yet. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You might have identified with an artifact instead of a skill, and now the shift feels like a loss. That's real, that's a valid grief. However, the developers who thrive with AI are the ones that accept that they're engineers and not code typers. And now they are actually able to scale their abilities. All three patterns that we discussed in this video, the cognitive drain, the false sense of unproductivity, and the identity crisis, come from the same shift. AI took away the easy part of code writing and left us with the hard part. Now, this hard part is actually more valuable than ever, but it is more tiring, it's more demanding, and more exposing. If you don't accept this shift, you might feel drained without knowing why, just because thinking is harder than typing. You might feel unproductive while you're actually doing the real work because thinking doesn't feel like working to you. And you might feel useless just because you're measuring yourself against the wrong metrics. The way that I like to frame it, AI didn't automate your job, it reveals what your job always was. Our role is changing, but towards what software engineering always meant. Not writing code, but solving problems. Not answering the question, how fast can we build this? But answering the question, is this the right thing to build? And when we can create software faster, the new bottleneck will actually be exactly that, answering what is the right thing to build. So software engineering can and should move closer to product ownership, towards users, towards requirements, to design the perfect solutions, but also identify the right problems. That's where where the value really is. AI can accelerate your thinking, but only if you stay engaged with the thinking. This will make you more valuable, but it's harder to do. Account for that, manage your energy, and build back comprehension into your workflow. And stop measuring yourself with the amount of lines of code that you produce on a daily basis. We are always interested in your experiences, especially on this topic. So if you have something to share, please leave a comment on this video. And if you currently navigate this shift and generally AI coding with your team, we offer consulting and training on AI coding. You find a link to our services in the description, and we cover, of course, technical topics, but also softer topics as we discussed in this video. Finally, if you like the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. We will soon publish more videos like this on other bloggers for AI coding in other areas. And with that, thank you for watching.